So let's go to step number one. Step number one is the greeting. Let me make a couple of comments here, and then Marty, I'd love to get some of your input, on the registration aspect of it. And the greeting, it should be pretty straightforward. We're welcoming these folks to the gym. Hey, it's great to see you today. Mary, good to have you in the gym. If you would please go ahead and register in. Let me know how you heard about us, and I'll be right with you. Now, I do want to make one comment here when it comes to selling. Some people, when they walk in, they're already sold. And typically who those folks are, I'm not talking about prejudging here. Don't misinterpret me here. Folks that have been a previous club guest, they indicate they've been in before, or someone who's been a previous member. Many times it can be appropriate. Well, Mary, fantastic. Welcome to the gym. It's good to have you. Mary, have you made the decision to join? Because sometimes as a salesperson, we forget that, hey, they don't necessarily need to hear this story if they're here to join. So if they've made that decision, sit down and sign them up. But your basic greeting, no prejudging, hey, welcome to the gym. It's good to have you in today. Go ahead and register in. Let me know how you heard about us, and I'll be right with you. Marty, some comments that you'd like to make on that particular slide regarding that registration process?
Yeah, more questions really. You're in a lot of gyms. You consult with a lot of gyms day to day. I mean, how are most people collecting this information? Are people still on pen and paper? Are they moved to a digital collection of that information when the guest signs in?
I see three things that people do. Some will have the digital. Many, and particularly folks that have kind of lost their way a little bit. They're still on paper. And then believe it or not, there's some folks that don't do it at all.
Yeah. Yeah,
there's a lot of opportunity here, because this is not just the sales process. We're talking about sales process today, but ultimately, I mean, you're using this as a tool to ultimately help train your sales staff. If you're a gym owner or gym manager, there's a lot of great information that's going to come from this.
Yeah, and in your mind, are a lot of these leads falling through the cracks with that pen and paper system for those that haven't yet adopted a more digital approach?
Every single time. As a matter of fact, we were doing a training session with a club yesterday, and their sales process had literally become one and done because they were not utilizing a system like we're talking about here, with digital format. And here's one of the things that we found to be true. This is aside from the kind of the core sales process here, just in follow-up alone, proper follow-up, which means you have to have these leads and you have to have this data and you have to have this information. You can improve your business by as much as 20% with leads you already have. So, this lead capture system is crucial. If you don't do that, well, that is one expensive process for a club.
Yeah, they spend a lot of money on these people, a lot of money on marketing to have these people come in just to have that fall through. So it's really, really important to have all this data collected as well as the interests, because then those interests can help you down the line, deciding on which package you want to get them into.
Yep, that's gonna teach you, how to really sell it, and it's gonna teach you that really, in many cases, the strengths and weaknesses of a salesperson. I know from my standpoint as a consultant, we look at things like, this telephone inquiry logs and guest register logs. These things will tell us so much about a salesperson, their strengths and weaknesses, that many times, we can, a couple little tweaks, and all of a sudden that person is off and going again.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's the step one is the capture. You want to take away on step two, actually evaluation once you've got that lead?
Yeah, so let's talk about evaluation here. Now, we're still right here at the front. Okay, that customer has come in, they've registered in. The second thing is the evaluation. And my initial comments here, on the evaluation, I'm sure most everybody has heard this statement. Hey, sell the customer what they want. Makes perfect sense, right? But what I find to be true is that most salespeople do not truly know what the customer wants. Okay? And so what we like to do is a needs analysis. with this customer. It could be a guest profile, and that customer is going to register in, and we're going to ask them, Mary, if you would please have a seat. This is our needs analysis. This will give us an idea of what your goals are, what you're looking to accomplish, any kind of information on restrictions, bad back medication. We're going to give them a chance, to complete this. Now, in maybe a full-on seminar, there's a lot we could talk about here, but there's really two things that I want to see you get. If you're not doing it right now, make sure you get this. If you're not doing it and you start, I'm going to promise you, this is going to make one dramatic difference in your ability not only to sell, but also to create a significant sales funnel, to create additional sales, which we'll touch on a little bit later. But these two things that you want to find out what the customer's goals are and get those confirmed. And then you want to find out why those goals are important to them. So in a very simplistic sense, the customer's completed that needs analysis. I'm going to sit down next to them, and I'm going to take it, and I'm going to see, Mary, I see you want to lose 20 pounds. You want to firm up. You want to get back in shape. Is that correct? Well, sure, of course it is. Great. Mary, tell me, why is that important to you? Why is it important to you to do that? How's that going to change your life if you're able to do this? And she might say something like, well, hey, look, I'm getting married in a few months, and hey, I bought my wedding dress one size too small. I want to make sure I fit into it. They might say, well, hey, the doctor, gave me some information that if I don't lose this weight, I'm going to have to go on certain medications. So what they're doing, they're telling you why this is important to them. Because ultimately, this is what you sell. This is why I think so many folks have difficulty in quote-unquote sales. So we think we're selling memberships. We think we're selling personal training. We think we're selling something else. Ultimately, what you're selling is solutions for your customer. What you're selling is solving problems for your customer. What you're doing here is you're building value for your customer. So in this evaluation process, and again, it's going to take me longer to try to explain it to you today than it will be for you to actually do it. Okay? But when you're talking with this customer, you're not selling them anything. This is not a selling moment, this evaluation process right here. This is not really taking a long time to do, but it's not selling. You're asking questions. Why is this important to you? Why is now the time? Why do you have interest now? Like we alluded to, what problem are you trying to solve? And sometimes, they'll give you this information pretty quick. Other times you're going to have to kind of probe a little bit. Okay, what's the first thing you're going to do when you lose that weight? Okay, so really find this out. But most importantly, what I'd like to see you do, make sure you understand the goals. And the goals are not the powerful why. The goals are not the super objective. The goals are the goals. Why are those goals important? That's what you need to find. This will change how you sell. This will change how you're able to ask for the sale later. This will change how you give that tour. I put a statement on here for you that, many of you may have heard, but when a person goes to the hardware store to buy a drill, they're not going there because they want a drill. They're going there because they want a hole. If they're going to buy a quarter-inch drill bit, it's because they need a quarter-inch hole. They want their problem solved, is the message here. And what you need to understand, what is their problem? Why is it important for them to get that solved? This is what you want to do on that evaluation. So this is very brief. Again, I took probably more time here talking about it than probably you'll need to do with the customer. So customer registers in. Hey, great to see you, Mary. Good to have you today. If you would please, go ahead and have a seat, complete our needs analysis. It'll give us an idea of what your goals are, why that's important to you, any kind of restrictions you might have, and I'll be right with you. So now we've got that evaluation done, okay? And, step number 3 is we're going to talk about, the tour and building value on this tour. Because what you want to remember, this is where the selling takes place right here. And what is selling again? Selling is solving problems. selling is providing solutions and it's building value. Selling is not simply pointing out all the features that you have. Okay, and Marty, as I go through this, feel free to kind of jump in with some thoughts on this, because there's many things that based on information that we received from that initial guest waiver that we can utilize on this. So we've got the customer on the tour, and what you want to be able to do, I'll give you a little shortcut here. What most folks will do is they'll simply point out features. Hey, we've got 40 group exercise classes a week. Here's all of our cardio equipment. Here's our free weights. Here's our machines. And your customer, they're not leasing space from you. Quite frankly, they don't care if you have all this. What they care about, can you solve my problem? And one of the hidden benefits of this, by you actually solving their problem, they'll likely be willing to pay a higher rate for it. If all they're doing is leasing space, they're going to want a lower rate. Okay, so if you write this, anyone who's taking notes, write this down. But show them the features. As an example, Mary, this is our group exercise area. We do 40 classes per week, all the way from combat to Zumba. Okay, there's some features. Okay, true enough. Now tell them what are the benefits. And Mary, the benefits of this program are that because it's in a group environment, you're more accountable, you come in more frequently, you're going to push yourself harder, you're going to have more fun. In the end, that means getting the results you're looking for. But then you go to that super objective. And ultimately, Mary, what that means for you is dropping that 20 pounds and staying off that medication, that your doctor has warned you about. Sound good? So what I did, in this case, I kind of selected and presented a solution to the customer. And so as you're going through this, talk about, here's how it's going to benefit the prospect. Here's how it's going to benefit the customer. And a little exercise I would give for you guys, make a list of all the features in your gym, whatever features you have, and write out maybe 3, 4, or 5 benefits. And don't just go with, kind of the standard things. Well, hey, it's going to help you, lose weight. We kind of know that, but, go a little deeper in some of that. Okay? So, make a list of your features. What are the benefits? Okay? You want this tour really based on what your prospect said was important. What's important is that super objective. What's important is solving that problem and why they want to do that. Focus on this. This is why they are here. Okay? Here's what you want to know. If you start cutting corners, on this tour, you start cutting corners on providing solutions and solving problems, you're going to reduce your chances of making that sale. If you've got somebody on the fence, there's a good chance you're not going to get them closed if you cut corners here. Now, here's what's going to happen, though. If you start to show the customer, hey, we have a solution for you. Here's how it's going to work. We can solve your problem for you. This is the greatest urgency you could ever get. Because what do most clubs do when they try to create urgency? Oh, we've got this great special and it's ending soon. Okay, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But you know what? If you want to do this properly and really be a superstar salesperson and succeed virtually in any environment, the best urgency you can create is make the decision not to join more painful than the decision to join. That decision to continue waiting, that decision to continue putting this off should be more painful than having to get started. Because if you're showing them, hey, we've got the solution for you, we've got the exact way that you can do this, that's going to help create that urgency for you. Okay? Marty, any thoughts from your end on that on the tour?
Yeah, no, that's great stuff. And actually, I kind of have something that ties the step 2 and 3 together a little bit, which anybody who's worked with salespeople or worked around salespeople or even managed salespeople, in my opinion, I think one of the greatest issues is they want to talk too much and not listen. And it sounds like, step 2, you really want to make sure that you listen to what the needs are so that you can tie those back in step 3 and bring those up during the tour. And that's going to help you create that urgency and potentially even get you into a higher package based on their specific needs. So if you've had I don't know if you've had the same experience, Jim, as I have, but listening more and talking less seems to be what really separates the good salespeople from the great ones.
Oh, one of the misnomers that so many salespeople have is they think they need to talk, 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 tell, tell, tell. And the truth is that the greatest salespeople are the ones that ask the best questions, and they find out as much about their prospect as they can, so they can properly diagnose this and solve that problem for the customer. So you're absolutely correct.
And that all comes back to, in the needs and now, in your slide, or excuse me, step 2. I think, the main thing there is to listen, and then in step 3 you can do the talking based on what they said. And it's probably pretty surprising. It seems like common sense, but it's really not when you're working day to day with salespeople.
Yeah, and what happens, so many salespeople, and I kind of talked about this at the beginning, we forget, or maybe we don't really understand really what selling is. Selling is not, we're not selling a membership, we're not selling personal training or whatever product or service we have. View it as solving a problem for your customer, because by virtue of solving that problem, they will elect, to become involved in a membership or become involved in personal training. And the whole membership thing, that's why it gets so dicey sometimes, at point of sale, because we're thinking the wrong thing here. We need to be thinking getting results for our client. We need to be thinking, hey, I'm going to solve your problem. You've been thinking about this for a year. Guess what? You came to the right place. I'm your guy. I can help you do this.
Yeah, great stuff. So we've done the needs analysis. We've done the tour based on that needs analysis. Where are we going from here?
Okay, next is the analysis portion of this. And, step 3, and the analysis is actually part of the tour. And there are so many things that you can do on this that can really bring this to life. In some cases, you might need to, in part, kind of create a problem for the customer, not create it, but make it more aware, make the customer more aware of it. But they need to understand where they're at and what you're going to be able to do to help them. Because what has happened, because so many salespeople, quite frankly, are not sold on this themselves. They might think they are. But I'll say this, at any level that you are not hitting your numbers, whatever those numbers are, at some level you're not sold. You're not convinced. You're not all in. And this analysis part sometimes can reveal this. Because part of that analysis, if that customer says, say Jim Thomas comes in and I say, yeah, I want to get in shape and I want to kind of get that physique I had, back when I was playing sports, and fantastic, Jim, let's take a quick set of measurements, let's see where you're at, and let's get a sense of where you need to go. Or, Jim Thomas comes in and says, I need to lose about 20 pounds and I need to get back into shape, and here's why it's important to me. Fantastic, Jim, let's hop on the scale, let's see where you're at, let's get a benchmark number here. Now, in many cases, not only are you getting a benchmark number, but most folks that want to lose weight, they have a funny way of weighing more than they tell you. And sometimes losing that 20 pounds can even be 35 pounds all of a sudden. And this is not meant to demean. It's not meant to catch them doing something wrong. It's meant to create that benchmark number. But we have to be sold on it. The customer will do whatever we think they should do. If we think, oh, they're never going to do this, well, they may not. But you can do a 3-minute cardiovascular test. I'll give you kind of an old school thing that we've done that still works really well. Is, many folks that come into a gym, they want to lose weight, right? And we'll have like a 5-pound kettlebell, sitting up there. And I might say, as we're getting ready to begin the tour, I'll say, Mary, if you would, go ahead and grab that kettlebell. It weighs 5 pounds. Okay, go ahead and hang on to it. We're going to start the tour. And at any point that starts feeling too heavy, just let me know. We'll go ahead and put it down. And so we're going to begin the tour, and I'm mindful of this, again, not trying to call them out, not trying to embarrass them. And Mary, how's that feeling? Well, it's getting a little bit heavy. Hey, understand completely. Okay, why don't you go ahead and set it down? And Mary, how'd that feel when you set that down? Oh, what a relief. That thing was really getting heavy. Mary, absolutely. And Mary, that's how good it's going to feel when you lose that first 5 pounds. Mary, can you imagine how good it's going to feel when you lose 20? Because sometimes you have to bring this stuff to life. Because when people gain weight, it's such a gradual process, they don't always understand or recognize what it's doing to them. This is a great way to illustrate that. I'll tell you another great way, when it's appropriate. When it's appropriate. Maybe have the customer, hop on some kind of a chest press machine, or maybe have them do a tricep extension, something that they can do easily no matter how they're dressed. Take a picture of them if it's appropriate, and then show them that picture. Mary, what do you see here that you want to change? Jim, what do you see here that you want to change? Because, I've read story after story of folks that have lost weight. And one of the things that I hear a fair amount is, what prompted you to do this? And they'll say, I saw a picture of myself and I could not believe how much weight I had gained. And that really prompted me to want to do this. So there's many things that you can do on this. The key is you want to engage your customer. I mean, one of the simplest things you can do is, say you've got, Mary, and Mary wants to, firm the back of the arm. We want to show them how simple this is. Hey, Mary, go ahead and set your bag down. I want you to grab the bar, push it straight down, bring it about halfway up. Just breathe normal. You feel that working? Oh, yeah, that's what you want to work, right? Yes, it is. Show them how simple it is. But the point of all this, you need to engage your customer, and experience has taught me this works great, but it only works if you're sold on it. And if you're not, I understand. Just work on getting sold on it. One of the examples that I always give, I'm sure everybody listening has been to the doctor probably more than once, and what does that doctor do every single time you go? Jim, let's hop on the scale. Let's see where you're at. Because they want those numbers. Let's get those benchmark numbers. Let's compare them to previous numbers. What's up, what's down. So as long as we're sold on it, you're going to find that this is going to be a more simple process. So include this. And again, this is simply part of the tour. And what I would suggest you do, you want to make sure you're doing what's appropriate, for the customer. Make sure it's something that you believe in on the one that you choose. But go back and practice it. This is part of the tour. Don't get bogged down. You're not trying to take an hour with this person. Old school selling would tell you, hey, spend as much time as you can with them. Modern selling is fast, quick, easy, friendly. Pick things that you're comfortable with, things that and move through this process. Get the customer engaged. Okay, Marty, some thoughts on the analysis on your end?
Yeah, more of a question actually for you, since you're in a lot of these clubs again. So, I mean, is this all being captured on pen and paper? Is this just like maybe the leads could be some of the stuff's falling through the cracks, not tracked digitally, to then potentially upsell these prospects down the line?
The preference is always to do it digitally. The preference is always to do that. Many clubs don't. Some clubs don't do this at all. Some do it on paper. The paper gets thrown away. I had one person one time show me how you do it, and they grabbed a Post-it note. Okay? Any time, I would say this across the board, any time that you can take advantage of technology, do it. Because you're going to save yourself steps. You're going to keep yourself much more effective. You're going to keep yourself much more efficient in what you're doing. But there's a lot of folks that don't do it. There's clubs that will have this. They'll have the technology, but then they don't use it. And one of the little sidebar to all this, one of the things I would suggest to everybody, if you're an owner, if you're a manager, you should conduct some kind of sales training every single day. And when I say every single day, it can just be 10 or 15 minutes. And role play how to use the technology, role play how to use the sales process, role play, all the elements of this. Because all of this stuff is only as good as the people using it, and train them every day. You can have your weekly 1-hour meeting, but every day have some kind of training. It's no different than your customer that comes into your gym. I come in, I want to get in the best shape of my life. I want to do all this. Hey, how often do you recommend I come in? Well, I want you to come in 6 days a week. We're going to have you on, weights one day, and we're going to be doing cardio work the other. We want to get you in here on a regular basis. It's the same thing on this. So if you're trying to be more proficient with your technology, with your process, train every day. Get good at it. So if you have the technology, make sure you're using it. And if you don't have it, boy, get it. I mean, you can, there's so much you can do with this stuff. And then, you put that stuff to use, and these sales can explode for you. Because there's really no reason for any club to struggle. Think about your product for a second. How many people do you know that do not want to look better, do not want to feel better, and wouldn't like to live longer? And in part, you have to view this as your obligation to solve these problems for your customer. Use all the tools that you have. So hopefully that answered that for you, Marty. But yeah, people that have it need to use it, and those that don't have it, well, they can change their world if they get it.
Yeah, absolutely. The software is only as good as the process behind it. There's no magic bullet. You're not going to just buy a piece of software and all your problems are solved. So the two things really do have to work in tandem.
Right.
Good stuff.
Okay. Now, where are we at here? Step 4.
We are step 4.
The membership. Yeah, step 4, the membership presentation. So we've done all of this. We've done the greeting, we've done the evaluation, we've done the tour, we've done the analysis. Now, let me just take a moment here. Because what all that is, that's the selling process. That's uncovering what the customer's goals are. It's uncovering, why these goals are important. It's providing a solution for the customer. It's solving a problem for their customer. It's finding out about your customer. That this is what selling is. That's what you're doing. When you get to this point right here, when you get to this membership presentation, and boy, write this down. I may talk a bit about this on some future slides here, but write it down anyway. The selling is over. The selling is over. In other words, your job here was to solve the customer's problem. Your job was to provide solutions. Your job was to provide value. If you have not done that at this point, you're in trouble. And one of the mistakes that people make when it comes down to the membership presentation is they go back to selling. And that's not what we're going to do. Okay, so I'm going to go through a few of these things. I've got a couple different slides here that will kind of talk about this. So I'll just address what I have here, as the bullet points. So the membership presentation. Here's one of the things that can, in some cases, could change your life in a club. We've had clubs literally quadruple their business. Now, granted, they have some low numbers when we started, which a lot of them quadruple it, but they've quadrupled their business by doing the first thing we have on this slide right here on step 5. Regardless of circumstances, everybody gets a presentation. Everybody gets a presentation. You want to present everybody. No, hey, I've got 5 minutes. I've got ice cream in the car. It's melting. Hey, fantastic. My name's Jim Thomas. I'm your guy. Give them a presentation. Give everybody a presentation. Always sit down with your prospect. This is a mistake, I see personal trainers make this one a lot, but so do a lot of membership reps. They start explaining membership rates while they're standing up in the lobby. Sit down with your customer. Sit down with your customer. You're doing business with them, okay? I talked earlier when we started this, is that from beginning to end, we'd like to have this whole process done within 20 minutes. Now you can go over a little bit, under a little bit, but it doesn't mean you're skipping steps. It doesn't mean you're rushed. You just know it that well, and you're very good at it. Because again, it bears repeating. Modern selling is about fast, quick, easy, friendly. These simple steps right here, we'll get into more of this in this next slide, but these simple steps right here will change so much for you. You could almost have the same things you're doing right now and just start doing some of this, and it's going to change quite a bit for you. Okay? Now, let's look at kind of closing this transaction here. Okay? you need to be prepared to close. And like I was alluding to earlier, closing the sale is completely different than selling. When you get down to give these membership rates, your job now is to close, not to sell. Let me go over this again. Selling is about, providing value, solving problems, providing solutions, finding out about your customer. What is closing? Closing is asking for the sale. Closing and selling are two different things. This is of all the things we talked about here today, this is the one where most help is usually needed. This is where our mouth gets a little dry. This is where we get nervous. This is where we get fearful. This is where all these things happen. Now, I want to say that if you've focused all of this and you continue, even in the close, you continue to focus on solving the customer's problems, this is going to become much simpler for you. Okay? And I'll give you some examples here in a second. Okay? But as a closer, someone who's trying to close this sale, okay, you need to have many ways to do it. You need to have many ways to do it, not just a few. But I can tell you this, when you're closing, don't just, hey, sometimes we can do all these great things, hey, I'm trying to solve your problem, and we default back, well, hey, this offer is only good for today. Well, this is a special offer. Look, that's a great lever, and I would always probably have something like that, but don't make that at the top of the list. Why should they buy today? Because they want to get off medication. I can change your life for you. You're finally this close to doing something. Okay? You want to have numerous, closes that you can use. Okay? And now here's something that I've found to be true. This last paragraph on this particular slide here. Salespeople who have difficulty closing, typically they will start to avoid other vital necessities of selling. They don't do as much prospecting. They don't do as much following up. Even their attitude can take a hit. That inability to close, seemingly starts to affect everything else that we do. And there's a big difference, guys, between just enrolling somebody and closing. There's some folks that walk into your gym that, you couldn't even talk them out of it. That's not selling. I think it was Stanley Marcus. You guys know who Stanley Marcus is? That's one of the Neiman Marcus founders. And one of his famous quotes was this: if someone walks into your business and only buys what they came in for, you didn't sell them anything. And if you think about that, it's absolutely the truth. We need to build value. Don't just handle who's interested. Because if you do this properly, not only are you going to get more sales, but here's what else you're going to find. You're going to get more referrals because they're not joining for the deal. They're joining because you solved their problem. You're going to find you're going to sell more personal training. You're going to sell more apparel. You're going to sell more nutrition. You're going to sell more, juice bar items if that's what you have. So all of this, will change everything. Okay, Marty, some thoughts on closing the transaction right there?
Yeah, this is really great stuff. I have more of a question on, there's great closers out there, but not every sale closes on the first attempt. What types of, you talked about one and done earlier. Are salespeople doing that same thing here, or are they tracking these people and potentially following back up, and keeping that lead nurtured, or how does that?
Yeah, let me give you. You use one of my absolute favorite words on this, and the word is nurture. Because if you don't sign this person up on the first visit, because I'll say this, talking about follow-up is one of the biggest problems this industry has. But for people that do it right, it's one of your greatest sales advantages. Because, like I mentioned earlier, we have found that you can actually increase your business by as much as 20% with proper follow-up. And proper follow-up, to use Marty's words, which I like that word is you nurture them. And what I mean by nurture is you work to maintain interest and to maintain desire. And one of the things that I've seen is that it's going to take you between 5 and 12 potential contacts, follow-ups with this customer to get them to sign up. But one of the problems with salespeople is, half these leads don't get called at all. The other half, maybe they get called 1 to 3 times. And so you really want to have, if you don't have your leads organized and you're getting that daily alert, hey, it's time for me to call that person, because follow-up is about frequency and consistency. It's not about, hey, I'll touch base with you every 30 days when I've got a new special. That's not maintaining interest and desire. Maintaining interest and desire is motivation, education, inspiration, and some coaching. All of these things, lead into that. And that can be about a 20%. So say, for example, say you're a 50% first-time closer. Some of you guys might be better than that. But say you're a 50% first-time closer, you pick up another 20% because your follow-up is so tight. Now you're a 70% closer. That's pretty good. And this is where capturing all that data is going to be crucial. If you're not getting that data, not getting the proper information in there, it's going to be impossible to do that. So, yeah, Marty, absolutely. That's going to be, right there at the forefront of making this thing a successful program.
Yeah, and it all goes back, it all ties together, all 5 steps. If you didn't collect that interest, the lead at the beginning, if you didn't capture it digitally, you effectively wasted the last 20 minutes, if you didn't close the sale, because you're not going to be able to follow up.
That's it. And what's crazy is, so many clubs, they put so much time, so much effort, and spend so much money to get somebody in that front door, but then they don't follow up properly. Take the time to do that right. You're talking 20%, folks. I mean, that's the number if you do it right. And one thing I would add to that is never, ever, ever throw away a lead. As long as you're providing value, this works. Now, if that phone call, that follow-up phone call, hey, we got a great deal going on, hey, I'd love to get you back in here, and maybe there's a time and a place for that, but it's about nurturing. Motivate, educate, inspire, coach. Give them value. Every call, give them value. Document it so you know how that next call needs to be. And the sky's the limit for you. This can be so simple. And it's one of the simplest things that so many folks, they make it so much more difficult. And if you follow this and you train on it and then expand on, okay, how can I get better? What else do I need to do? How does this need to work? Really become a student of this. The best people at most anything are great students of it. And become that student.
That's great.
All right. Let's. I think we're getting here kind of close to the end, right? Let's talk about some bonus tips here for you. And I'm going to give you 3 or 4 or 5, and then Marty will kind of get 2 or 3 from you. I want to give you some bonus tips to grow your sales. Because I'm sure everybody listening, we're all at different levels of where we're at. Here's the first thing. You heard me talk about it earlier. You must be sold yourself. You must be sold that you can solve your customer's problem. You must be sold that your gym is the best gym to do it. You must be sold that now is the best time. Now is the best opportunity. You must be sold. I was doing a webinar a few months back, and we're talking about, Marty, the idea of follow-up and how we do that. I know you're going to kind of touch on that here in a little bit. And somebody asked me the question, well, Jim, how much is too much? When do you stop? That's a good question. But if you can truly solve the customer's problem, if you truly have the gym, the best gym to do it, if you truly are the best person, is this truly the best time? Why wouldn't you follow up with them? If all that's true, and you truly believe that, why wouldn't you? So much of this starts with us. It's why you see some people can kind of walk into any situation and have success. They're sold. Here's number 2. This one's a big one. This one's a monster. Be agreeable. What happens to so many salespeople, and a lot of rookies make this mistake, is we try to sell from a standpoint of being disagreeable. We're disagreeing with the customer. No, you're wrong. You're all wrong. You got it all wrong. Be agreeable with them. I'll give you an example. Customer says, wow, Jim, I had no idea it cost that much money. Wow. Oh, it's really not that much. We start disagreeing with them, right? Try this. Next time the customer says to you, wow, that's a lot of money. Mary, hey, I understand. It seems like everything costs more these days. What do you say? Can we go ahead and get you started today? So at point of sale, my job's to close, right? My job is to not go back to selling. And don't be disagreeable. Be agreeable. Be easy to get along with. It doesn't mean that you're getting sold on that idea. You're listening. You're just not buying into it. Hey, Mary, I understand. It seems like everything costs more money these days. What do you say? Can we go ahead and get you started today? Because really all it is a complaint. We'll do this a lot of times when we're working with, retail and pro shop and front desk, and say you've got apparel. And of course, I hope you have your apparel, priced right on up there. It certainly should be. And customer comes in and, hey, have you checked out our new great stuff over here in the pro shop? Oh yeah, Jim, I saw that. But man, that is so expensive. Oh man, I hear you. I thought the same thing when I first saw it. Have you checked out this material? Hey, try this on. Be agreeable and keep rolling. It's no different than when you walk outside. Man, it's cold out here. Oh, this is a complaint. I mean, no one's expecting anyone to change it. So when you go to the movies and, the crazy amount of money they charge, oh, this is a complaint. That's all this is. Be agreeable. Hey, I understand. I thought the same thing when I first saw it. What do you say? Can we go ahead and get you started today? So learn to be agreeable. Number 3, these are all big ones. Get in the habit of treating everyone like a buyer. Get in the habit of treating everyone like a buyer. This is, don't prejudge, right? And here's what I mean. Treat everyone like a buyer. Treat everybody like they're worth $1 million and like they're interested. Because I promise you, if you had someone walk through that front door and you knew they were worth $1 million and you knew they had interest in getting set up on a fitness program, you'd most likely treat them much different than the guy who says, yeah, I just want to work out with my friend. Treat everyone like a buyer, because people will start to respond to you in the same manner that you treat them. Treat everyone like a buyer. This is not that easy to do. You need to work at this, but it'll make a gigantic difference for you. And all of a sudden, you're going to have lots of folks joining you never thought would. Your next bonus tip to grow your sales is one that is rarely done. And it's part of that whole sales funnel mindset, which is a whole other training course. But it's called the second sale. It's like the sales funnel. Hey, you buy the first thing, maybe you'll buy the second thing, maybe you'll buy the third thing. A certain percent will buy the first one, maybe 20% will buy the second, maybe 20% will buy the third. Now, typically for clubs that we work with, that second sale is usually personal training. And so, for example, second sale, I've got you signed up on a membership. You're ready to go. You're all pumped up. My desk is clear. I'm going to give some validation here. Hey, Mary, great decision to get started with us. We're going to help get you in the best shape of your life. Now, Mary, you mentioned you're looking to lose 20 pounds, and you want to make sure you drop that weight so you don't have to go on medication, right? Oh, that's exactly what I want to do. Great. Mary, let me ask you this one question. How would you like to get your results twice as fast? Oh, how do I do that? That sounds great. And I'm going to give a personal training presentation. I'm going to try to sell her on it. And guess what? Oh, Jim, I had no idea it cost that much money. Hey, I understand. Seems like everything costs more money these days. What do you say? Can we get you set up on program 1 or whatever you call it? So I'm going to go for the second sale. As I'm leaving, I'm walking past the front. I'm walking by the pro shop. Hey, Mary, now that you're a member, we need to get you outfitted. We need to get you looking good in here. Mary, are you someone who likes to wear hats? You know, T-shirts? Oh yeah, I have all that stuff. Here, try this hat on. You know, shirt. So I'm going to offer, hey, let's get you set up there. Or maybe it's nutrition. But this is your basic sales funnel process. Let me give you this thing to think about. I can give you 2 clubs that are side by side. Both of them can get the exact same amount of guest traffic. Both can get have the exact same closing percentage. One club can lose money, the other club makes a ton of money. And the difference is that second sale, that third sale, and that fourth sale to that same customer. One club, they just get the membership and they're out the door. The next club will sell PT, they'll sell boot camp, they'll sell group training, they'll sell nutrition, but there's a process for all of that. So that second sale and all others. Here's my last tip before I turn it over to Marty is, and I get this one, a lot of times when I go into these bigger facilities and we'll do, on-site training or we've done some kind of an analysis for them, and a lot of times there's a newer person there. Maybe it's a front desk person that maybe graduated into sales or it's a new salesperson. And they'll say, well, yeah, Jim, all that's great, but it's so tough for me to get started here. And there's a lot of things you can do. But here's one of the things I suggest to them, and their eyes always get really big. I say, go to your owner, go to your manager, and volunteer to handle all complaints. And they look at me, of course, like I'm crazy. But here's why you want to do this. Because when you successfully handle a complaint, it is the highest level of service that you can possibly provide when you successfully handle a complaint. Now, I'm not here to talk about your complaints per se, but I want to give you an idea of a process and how this works and how you can grow your sales. Customer comes to you, they've got a complaint. It's about billing. It's about how they were treated. It's about cleanliness. It's about, parking. Whatever it is, it really doesn't matter. What do you say first? And I hope all of you are saying this to yourself right now. You be agreeable. Whatever the complaint is, Mary, I understand. We should be giving you better service than that. Be agreeable with them. You'll be amazed how easy it is to get along with folks. I've had folks, we've done training classes, I've had folks call me up and say, Jim, I use that strategy on my parents. Man, it works great. Okay? So be agreeable. So they complain, Mary, I understand. We should be giving you better service than that. Now, let's see if we can get this figured out. And then you want to do your darndest. I mean, do your darndest to satisfy that complaint. That's another training, okay? But once that complaint has been settled, that is the highest level of service. Because if that person didn't want to stay with you, if that person didn't want to be a member, they wouldn't have taken the time to complain. So it's a high level. You have earned the right now. Mary, fantastic. Mary, by the way, how long have you been a member with us? Well, I've been a member here for 3 years. Fantastic. And Mary, what kind of goals do you have? You're going to recognize this, right? Well, I want to lose 20 pounds. Okay, great. Why is that important to you? Oh, my doctor, he told me this, or hey, I got to keep up with the grandkids, or whatever it is. Fantastic. Mary, let me ask you this question. How would you like to get your results twice as fast? Oh, I'd love to do that. How's that work? Have a seat. Sit down with your prospect, right? Have a seat. Sit down with them. Give them a personal training presentation. Maybe it's a presentation on boot camps. Maybe it's a presentation on group programs. Maybe it's a presentation on nutrition. Maybe it's a seminar you're doing. But take that and turn it into an opportunity. Think about your sales funnel. And you've got the person in. Now, what else can we do to give them value? It's all about giving them value. I'm not just selling PT. I'm giving value to this person. I'm solving their problem. I'm providing solutions. So there's 5 tips that can make a big difference. And I know, Marty, you've got some things you want to talk about, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Jim. That's all really, really great stuff. Great advice. Just a couple of things to kind of piggyback on top of that. I mean, it's pretty simple. The follow-up, every salesperson in the history of salespeople, it gets caught up in the brand new lead. They get so excited for somebody brand new coming in the door, but in reality, following up with leads that you've already had could potentially yield more sales. So you mentioned, Jim, between 5 and 12 contacts. I've heard a lot of different ranges, but it's never 1 or 2 or 3. So you do need to make a lot of follow-ups with these people in order to maximize the number of closes you're actually going to have. And don't think of it as like you're annoying them. They came in, they're interested. People get distracted. Sometimes they need a little bit of an extra push to, actually sign up. But you're doing them a favor by following up with them. A lot of salespeople don't want to be too pushy or too intrusive. But as long as you do it in the right way and you follow up appropriately, you're actually providing a service to that person and getting them to come to the gym and join and hit their fitness goals. So following up, I think, falls off a lot. But it's very, very important that it does not. And obviously a system to help you with that is important as well. Beyond that, focusing on their interests, specifically for marketing and leads that may need to be nurtured, as we talked about earlier. But basically, if they came in and they said they were interested in small group training or personal training or yoga or whatever, don't send them something about like your spin classes or your child care. You want to send relevant marketing emails, and you want to isolate those interests, and you can do that as part of the lead capture at the beginning, during the very, very first step of this 5-step process. You can collect those interests and then utilize those later to then market to these people that may either not have signed up or have signed up, and you want to sell them additional amenities. So you want to just make sure you focus, and it feels to the actual member or the prospect, it feels, like you actually listen to them, and you're sending them very specific, relevant marketing emails to try to get them to come in the door and hit their goals. And then the last thing is just use different methods. Some people respond well to emails. Some people like to be called. Texting is one of the what we see to be the highest yield, really, of any of these methods. Obviously, you have to stay compliant and they have to opt in. But if they've opted in, you're going to get eyeballs on these texts, and texting works and works very, very well. So you want to collect, people's opt-ins for those texting, but you do want to email, call, text, and you want to change up that cadence, and you want to test that cadence to kind of see, okay, which one works best. Should I call on day 1, email on day 2? Test those things out and change up your follow-up cadence to maximize for results, and change up times of day and all those different things, and learn from it. So that's what's going to help you maximize the number of actual closes you get beyond the tour. Once that person either doesn't sign up or you want to sell them additional amenities from there. So that's the main tips that I had, Jim. I was thinking, I know we're running low on time here, we're a little bit over, but if you have a few minutes, I thought we could open it up to some questions from the group. Maybe we'll say another 5 minutes or so for some questions. Does that work?
You bet. Sure, absolutely.
All right, cool. So if anybody does have any questions, sorry I failed to mention this earlier, but you can chat those in if you have any questions for either Jim or myself. We can kind of tag team those to get those answered. So feel free to chat those in. We got one here already. Let's see here. So this is from Kelly. So she says, for the analysis stage of the tour, do you find people appreciate that or feel uncomfortable? That's probably for you, Jim. What do you think about that analysis stage? Is that something that people are generally comfortable with, or do they find value in it, or is it some combination?
Yeah, here's the thing you want to remember about selling, period. It matters more how you feel about it than it does how the customer feels about it. And what I mean by that is, if you're sold, if you're confident, if you believe you've got the answer and you come across that way, your customer is going to come right along with you. It's not going to be a problem. Okay? Now, there is a certain point of being appropriate. There's an appropriate things you should do or shouldn't do with some folks. But the core answer to this is, if your customer is feeling uncomfortable at anything, whether it's the analysis or anything else, if they're feeling uncomfortable, I'd be willing to guess that probably you felt uncomfortable first, and that led to part of it. So part of this, it goes back to that same thing. We have to be sold. Pick things using that same question. Pick things in the analysis that you feel good about, that you can go out there and do, that you're convinced, hey, this is great. And I think you'll find it's going to be a lot easier than you might think.
So as long as you, the salesperson, are comfortable with it, it's going to make the prospect or the member comfortable with it, and that's just going to come through and make it all smooth.
You bet.
Got it. And again, feel free to chat in any questions that there's one more here. This is from Tom. How important is having all this done through a sales software? Couldn't I just use PowerPoint and Excel? That's a common one. And if you don't mind, I'll take the first crack at that one, Jim. But that's pretty common. A lot of these clubs, and many clubs aren't even to the level where they are using PowerPoint and Excel. They're even back, further back than that, using pen and paper and things like that. I mean, yes, a lot of clubs do it, and some do it well still. I'd imagine that things are falling through the cracks, and the software is designed to help. You can use those tools. I think probably most importantly is having a process in place, and that's what we talked through today, and that's what, that was really great information from Jim. But, get that process in place first, and then decide, okay, am I actually utilizing this process as well as I possibly could be with these tools that I'm using, or does it make sense to have potentially a software provider like ClubOS or any other of the great software options that are out there today to help me with this. So I think first things first, get the sales process in place. Really focus on making sure everybody follows that sales process, and then you can begin to see, okay, are things falling through the cracks along the way because of the way I'm tracking this, or potentially not tracking this using sticky notes or pen and paper or Excel spreadsheets that may or may not make sense. So I think that would be my opinion, is to get everything in place in order and then decide, would software help me out? My opinion, obviously I'm biased, but my opinion would be yes, that it is. But that's something that you should track very closely.
Yeah, I mean, I would reinforce that, because, a lot of clubs we go into that, that they're how do we get to that next level? How do we get this back on track? How do we improve, this, and this? And I'll start asking questions, trying to understand, hey, what do you have? What do you have? And they're doing, in many cases, the reason they're struggling in these areas is they're doing a poor job of tracking. They're doing a poor job of lead capture, and not only just even lead capture, but also having that technology system in place. When I talk to you, I disposition that next step on how to do it. And there's so much. I mean, anyone that's not using technology in their business, I mean, this is 2017. We need to get with it, right?
Absolutely. I could agree more. We actually had a really good question just come through just now, Jim. One more. It looks like this is probably more for you, but from Charlie, we got: do you prefer sharing prices before or after the tour?
I never like to avoid the issue of price. I don't like to avoid it. Now, will I automatically bring it up at the beginning? Not necessarily, but if they bring it up, I'm not going to avoid it, because one of the ways, if you are well versed in this process, one of the great things about talking price initially is it allows you really to build value. The customer has gotten in their head, okay, this is going to cost me X. Okay, now it's your job, Mr. Sales Guy, go out there on this tour, go out there with this analysis, start solving problems, start providing solution, and start providing value. Because one of the dicey things about price, I'm not necessarily going to just go out here and volunteer it really, but things are so transparent. We talk about technology and everything. It's not necessarily always hard to figure out price. But when we get into this kind of battle of wills that I'm not going to give it to you, or you're going to wait till later, all that does is irritate the customer. And so I wouldn't go, if someone said, well, yeah, how much are these things running? Okay. Oh, yeah, as you've probably seen, we've got a special campaign right now costing this, and move on. I'm not going to go into a full-blown presentation, but I will not avoid price if the customer asks me. I will not avoid it.
I agree entirely. I don't proactively jump the price, but if it comes up, just quote the sticker price and say, hey, look, here's our sticker price. Let's take the tour. I think you're really going to like it, and then you come back to the actual price discussion later.
And I would go so far. I'd go so far as to say this: if say I'm doing that evaluation, I'm getting ready for the tour, and they say, well, Jim, before we get started here, how much is this going to cost me? Our most popular program, Marty, is $100 a month. And by the time I get done with this tour, I'm going to show you so much value. I'm going to show you how we can solve your problems. my goal is to have you as a new member when we get done with this tour. Fair enough?
Yep.
You know, because I believe that much in what I do.
Yep.
Because that is my job. It's on me. It's not on the customer. It's not on the customer. It's on me to do that.
Couldn't agree more. It looks like that's it on the questions.
That's a great question, by the way.
It is. It is. Thank you, Charlie, for that. Well, we're a little over on time. We will send everybody these slides. Here's contact info for both myself and Jim. Should you have any questions that you did not get to ask today, we will certainly follow up with those. But Jim, thank you very much for your time. This has been great, hugely valuable for the clubs that are on the call today. This overview of the sales process. I couldn't agree more that it's very, very important to have this succinct process in place. We thank you very much for your time.
You bet. It's a pleasure to be here, and hope everybody found it beneficial. And I'm available if anybody does have any questions or anything we can help you with.